It began in the late whispers of a sleepy town, Rochester, Minnesota. Tucked away from the thrumming vein of the city, this hidden heart pulsed softly beneath the spread of a sunset that bled into the blue yonder. Sam, our generous and sincere protagonist, perched in the cluttered nest of his office, hunched over his weather-beaten desk. The air hung heavy with ink and stale coffee, bearing the weight of his dreams, the stories he yearned to share, the truths he sought to uncover. A layer of untouched dust gathered on the solitary picture frame, an unspoken testament to the broken relationships in his life, as if silence could mend the bonds that time had severed. His phone hummed, jolting him from the ghostly grip of his past. He wiped a hand across his furrowed brow, fingers clinging to the last vestiges of his fading youth, and answered the call. "Sam here?" A soft voice echoed from the other end, introducing herself as Martha, a wary town local. She spoke of a sinister rumor, a tale she could hardly believe but feared enough to speak about. Weapons, she whispered, were being traded amidst the shadowy silence of the local orphanage. No, Sam, it ain't just the dealers," Martha rasped, her voice a thin reed in the wind. "It's the orphanage. It's just not right." With the sibilant whisper of her fears still echoing in his ears, Sam found himself gazing into the depths of an old sepia-tone photo. The orphanage stood tall, a ghastly silhouette against a mournful sky. Ivy clung greedily to its ancient stones, consuming the structure in a slow, natural decay. Even in this captured moment of time, the orphanage seemed to be an entity alive with its own morose tales. A knot of unease twisted itself into existence within him, winding tight around his persistent nature. It promised a chilling tale that crept into his bones, but it also promised redemption, a chance to mend the chasm in his life, to bridge the fragmented remnants of his past. His fingers trailed over the grotesque facade of the orphanage, his heart thrumming with the steady drum of a silent fear. In the quiet seclusion of his office, under the dim glow of a single lamp, he dared to believe the whispers of a town swathed in an ordinary darkness. As the night fell, his gaze clung to the photo. Despite the rising fear, his spirit ignited with the fire of curiosity. The promise of an unresolved mystery tempted him, drawing him closer to the edge of a precipice from which there was no return. The ordinary darkness was about to become extraordinary, promising to consume his world and perhaps his very sanity. The orphanage loomed over Sam like a timeless specter, a monolith of dark stone worn by weather and sorrow. The air was saturated with silence, a thick veil that stifled the laughter of children, replacing it with an oppressive sense of dread that left his heart pounding against his ribs. A woman, severe in her manner and stoic in her duty, greeted him. She was the caretaker, her name etched in the wrinkles of her weary face, Mrs. Abigail. Her eyes, however, were the most compelling. They were windows not only into her soul, but also into the very spirit of the orphanage. They reflected a spectrum of emotions, from a deep-set sadness to a glint of fear that stirred the waters of his own trepidation. As they walked through the cold, echoing corridors of the orphanage, he tried to engage Mrs. Abigail in conversation. Her words were sparse, wrapped in layers of reticence. "The children are good, quiet," she said, her voice as rigid as the iron-wrought banisters. She glanced briefly at the silent figures of the children, eyes wide with innocence, yet shadowed with unspeakable secrets. Their mute presence only deepened the enigma of the orphanage. His investigations led him to a door beneath the aged wooden stairs, a door that seemed to creak with the burden of untold secrets. The chill of the basement seeped through the cracks, beckoning him to uncover the shadows that thrived there. His heart pounded against the silence as he creaked open the heavy door, his flashlight revealing an underbelly of cryptic symbols etched into the cold stone walls. In the middle of the room, a pedestal held an obsidian stone, gleaming ominously under the weak flashlight beam. It was out of place, out of time. A chill ran down his spine, a visceral reaction to this relic that seemed to reverberate with ancient, dark energy. It was as though the stone was a conduit, a bridge to a world that existed in whispers and shadows. As he exited the building, the whispers of the town that had been merely background noise before now seemed more pronounced. His return to the office was accompanied by wary glances and hushed conversations that seemed to pause as he passed. The town, once his familiar haven, now held a veil of aloofness, a cold shroud of silence that hinted at a conspiracy. With the obsidian stone's spectral gleam imprinted in his mind and the town's peculiar behavior feeding his paranoia, he felt an irresistible pull toward the unknown. Something lurked in the heart of Rochester, a secret so ancient and malevolent that it threatened to shatter his reality. And he was on the edge, teetering between the known and the unfathomable, about to plunge into the very heart of the Orphanage of Shadows. Rochester's mundane soundscape seemed to warp and twist into a haunting symphony, reflecting the disarray of Sam's mind. As the days bled into nights, he found himself caught in a delirious dance of intrigue and horror, the thinning veil between reality and nightmare threatening to swallow him whole. In the labyrinth of books and artifacts, he unearthed tales of dark dimensions and cosmic horrors, of entities that whispered in the chasms between stars. His heart pulsed with a macabre fascination as he deciphered cryptic symbols akin to those found in the orphanage's hidden chamber. He spent sleepless nights tracing the lineage of the obsidian stone. The stone he found was believed to be a key, a bridge between realms. Each revelation felt like a dissonant note in a chilling symphony, filling his mind with images of celestial nightmares and echoing laughter from the abyss. The veiled enigma of the cosmos began to infiltrate his dreams, the thin veneer of sleep no longer a sanctuary, but a stage for otherworldly spectacles. The entities in his dreams were vast, their forms an affront to human understanding, slipping in and out of the shadows of his mind. His waking hours in Rochester were not spared from this uncanny transformation. The once familiar facades of houses stretched into grotesque expressions. The trees along the boulevard seemed to twist into inky, reaching phantoms under the cloak of night. His paranoia sketched monstrous figures in every shifting shadow, every errant whisper in the wind. Every step he took toward the truth seemed to isolate him further from the world he knew. The townsfolk's interactions carried a frosty veneer, their conversations falling into a hush as he approached. An icy chill of isolation crept up his spine, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, studied by unseen eyes. Haunted by the nightmares that lurked both in his dreams and reality, he felt himself drawn to the orphanage, an unseen force tugging at his core. With the key in his grasp, the obsidian stone whispered promises of revealing the hidden world, the secret that Rochester clutched so close to its heart. Yet as the stone's spectral whisper echoed in his mind, he could not foresee the storm of horror it would unleash. The end of his investigation was merely the beginning of an unimaginable journey into the abyss. Sam stood before the ominous edifice of the orphanage, the weight of the obsidian stone cold in his trembling hands. The world around him felt dislocated, unmoored from its familiar bearings, a ship adrift in the fathomless ocean of night. Inside, the hallways echoed with a spectral silence, leading him back to the basement, the birthplace of his nightmarish journey. He approached the pedestal, heart pounding in rhythm with the unseen pulse of the cosmos. Summoning a courage that felt as brittle as glass, he placed the stone atop the pedestal. The air shifted, thickened, and a vortex of darkness emerged from the obsidian stone, its abyssal maw a yawning gateway into realms unknown. A presence emerged from the vortex, its form a cacophony of chaos and beauty that threatened to shatter his sanity. It was like gazing into the heart of a nebula, witnessing the birth and death of stars, galaxies spinning into oblivion. It was a traveler from the cosmic abyss, an entity whose existence rendered everything Sam knew insignificant. The terror rooted him to the spot, the cold tendrils of fear weaving around his heart. The once cloistered realm of Rochester had been a mere mask, beneath which thrummed the heartbeat of this cosmic horror. The weapons he had been investigating were not tools of violence for mankind's petty wars, but sacred relics used to prevent this very reality from unraveling. As he stood, ensnared by the gaze of the abyssal entity, his mind began to crumble. It was not a battle cry that filled his mind, but a lament, a silent apology to the relationships he had failed to mend. His thoughts cascaded back to the broken fragments of his past, his dreams of redemption shattered beneath the cosmic revelation. His life, like a fragile wisp of smoke, was extinguished in the alien gust of the cosmic horror. The body of the once persistent journalist lay lifeless in the heart of the orphanage of shadows. He had stepped into the shadow of the cosmos, only to be consumed by its all-encompassing terror. In the wake of Sam's demise, the orphanage stood as the final witness, its dark stones steeped in the story of a man who dared to unveil the reality beneath reality, who lost himself in the labyrinth of cosmic horror. His tragic end was a chilling testament to the insignificance of human endeavor in the face of the boundless cosmic indifference. As dawn broke, the orphanage returned to its eerie stillness, an ominous monument under the pale morning sky. The echo of Sam's existence faded into the ordinary darkness, a single note in the infinite symphony of the cosmos. His life, his death, and his story were just insignificant ripples in the cosmic sea, swallowed by the unfathomable depths of the cosmic horror he had awakened. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed our content, show your support with a like and subscribe, and stay notified by hitting the bell icon. Expect more cosmic horror from Eldritch Tales Factory, and feel free to explore our other stories. See you in the next video.